All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant and your host for today. Now, before we actually start, I want to go ahead and ask our question of the day, just as everybody's kind of coming in and you guys are settling down in front of your computers, your phones, or your tablets, what have you. And for those already with us in the room, feel free to answer, just because so we can get a little bit of that conversation going. Okay. So, Mike, I know this is different for everybody, and I don't have an answer for this myself. Okay. So, Mike, what is your spirit animal?
Oh, spirit guide or spirit animal?
Whichever you want.
Oh, that's really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I I'd like to think, right,
Yeah.
that uh if they weren't so rambunctious,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be a French bulldog,
Oh, I love them. They're so cute.
right? They're just lovable. People instantly like them, and they're just
Yeah.
people, but
Gravitate, right?
they could be annoying too. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'm a little annoying at sometimes as well. So,
Oh. Well, if we're
so
talking spirit guide, dogs are definitely a good answer for spirit guide, but for a spirit animal, I think dogs are great too.
right? I mean, how
Yeah.
could you go wrong? I mean, there's no greater love in the world than with your dog.
I know. I have three of them and they're fantastic. I love them.
I even had a personalized hat. I have a picture of my French bulldog on a hat with his name on it. I just wear that around. So I'm like, instead of wearing Nike or whoever, I'm going to wear Mozzie.
Dog, exactly. Yeah, I had socks made with my dog's face on it, so that's fun. But it's called Who's That? Oh, that's my dog. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Well, I even have an
Okay.
air freshener hanging in my car, right?
Oh no, that's so
Of
cute.
my dog's face. Yeah.
I
That's
used to
so.
have a pop socket too for that for my phone that
Funny.
had my dog's face. Yeah, okay.
Um,
All right, enough about dogs. I know we love them, but again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant and your host for today. Now, in today's Cash Flow Mastery Talks, we'll be talking about building strong customer relationships with Mike Milan. Now, I'll hand this off to Mike in just a little bit after I cover a few of the housekeeping items. As you know, there is no CPE for this, as it is just a 30-minute webinar. If you have any questions, please remember to put them in the Q&A panel and remember to be specific. Don't just say what you mean. You got to say, hey, Mike, what you mean by you think you would be a French bulldog, mainly because he might not get to your question right after you put it in there. I'll be sending you a copy of the slide deck and a link to the recording after the webinar. And it's also going to be up on our YouTube channel within about 24 hours. So if you want to go check that out over there, along with many other webinars that Mike has also done in the past with us that might be of interest to you. I'll be putting that link to our YouTube channel into our chat as well. And also, do not forget that we have many webinars for you every month, whether you're interested in practice management, marketing, everything tax, or all things QuickBooks. Insightful Accountant's got something for you. You can check out all of our webinars that are available to you over on our educational webinars page right on our site. And don't worry, I'll be putting those links into our chat as well. And if you have not subscribed to our newsletter, join the tens of thousands of accounting professionals who rely on Insightful Accountant to keep them up to date on news and updates that impact today's accounting professional. I'll be rolling out all of those links for you guys and the copy of the slide deck throughout the webinar in case you might have missed it the first time I put it up there. And Mike, that's actually it for me. Welcome and thanks for being here.
All right. Hey, Jessica, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And live from San Antonio, it's Cashflow Mike, right? So, and we're going to be talking about building strong customer relationships. Now, most people know that cash is the lifeline of a business. But where do you get that cash? You get it from customer relationships. And it's been said that a lot of times, especially in a recurring relationship, most of your recurring money comes from current customers, right? So in a subscription-based model, basically what happens is that early on, 100% of your sales is from new customers. But over time, that actually flips, right? Where up to 70% of your revenue starts to come from your current customer base, not new customers. About 30% comes from, but 70% comes from your current customer base. So what that means is we've got to protect what we spent so much time, money, energy, marketing dollars, those type of things to acquire. Now, let's talk about it. This one's going to be different than the other cash flow ones because this is more fluffy. This is not so much math like I usually do. This is a little bit more conceptual. It's more about theory about how to do it. And why do I do this? Why have I taken advantage of this time that Insightful Accountant gives me? Because I'm on a mission to eliminate cash flow as a reason that businesses fail. And I want you to join me on that mission. Help me eliminate cash flow as a reason that they fail. So let's talk about it. Before I start here, though, I got to talk about my philosophy on, well, customer service. I'm going to start there. Now, you may have heard in your world before that there's the law of three of survival, right? Three, meaning the number three should stick in your head when you want to survive. And I talk about customers as a way for your business to survive. But in your real life, just living, there's a law of three. And the law of three is you can live, right, for 3 minutes without air. You can live for 3 hours without warmth. You can live for 3 days without water and 3 weeks without food. So think about that. That's the law of three. That's kind of what people should know as part of just living, being in life. Well, I've taken that concept and built a customer service philosophy around it, right? So, except for I call mine aura, right? AURA. I want my customers to have an aura, which means a halo around them. They're that precious to me that I want them to glow, right? And when I talk about this, I'm going to connect the law of three, which to me is a law of one, with the word aura. Now, let me explain this. The most fragile time in any relationship that you have with your customer is when there's a problem. That's the most fragile time. That's when you could lose them, is when they have a problem. So I try to deploy the aura philosophy for that. And the first A is I want to acknowledge. So let's pretend that I'm sitting here at my desk. One of my clients goes, I have a problem with fill in the blank. Doesn't matter what it is, just fill in the blank. Well, if that's true, I want to acknowledge that I'm going to use type. I'm going to acknowledge in 1 hour. All right, so think about that. I'm going to acknowledge, hey, saw what you did. I'm going to look into it. But I want to acknowledge that I saw that you have an issue. If I do that, then you know that I at least saw it. I know it exists. Now you know that I'm going to go work on it. So I'm going to acknowledge in an hour. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to update you in 1 day, right? I'm going to update you, which means by the end of that day, I'm like going, hey, listen, I'm still working on this. It's a bigger problem that I could just fix really instantly, but I'm going to try to update you in 1 day. So that means if 2 days go by, well, I failed because you're sitting there wondering if I'm even looking at your problem anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to resolve it, right? Resolve. And you probably know where this is going. Resolve in 1 week, right? So in 1 week, I'm going to try to resolve your problem. Even if you don't like the resolution, even if it's not perfect the way you thought it would be, we're going to get to this as a resolution. We're going to try to solve it. Now, my goal is always to do it faster than that. But my personal goal is to don't let any problems hang out longer than a week. And then lastly, I'm going to approach, right? I'm going to approach other clients that may have the same problem. I'm going to approach this person again to make sure that they were taken care of and that we're on good footing and that we still have a good relationship. So I'm going to approach in 1 month. So within a month, I'm going to approach everybody and say, hey, anybody else have this same problem? Because here's what we've had, right? Or if I see it, I'm going to approach it out there. So that's my aura. So to me, this is the lifeblood. If cash is king, if cash is the lifeblood of your business, your customers are the ones that provide the blood. So you need to give them an aura. All right. So that being said, why do we like certain people? Anybody know? Do you have a best friend? I mean, you can just kind of put it out there and chat or whatever. Do you have a best friend? Because if you do, why do you like that person? It's one of the hardest questions in the world to answer is, why do I like that person? Like, I don't know, Mike, I found that one. I like that one. That's the one, right? You're my person. Well, when we look at it, you look at the cross section of our brain, the reason why we like people, the reason why we fall in love, the reason why we vote, why we buy, they're all decisions that are made in the limbic part of the brain, right? The limbic part of the brain, if you look at the cross section of the head from the top down, the limbic part of the two parts of the brain, they're most interior. The outer edge of your brain is the neocortex. Now, what's interesting about these two parts of the brain, the limbic brain has no capacity for language, but it's where feelings and decisions are made. So if you've ever told yourself, it just doesn't feel right. If you've ever said that, that's because it's in here. You know, it doesn't feel right. I got a gut instinct, but I can't explain why. Well, the other part is the neocortex. This is the part of the human brain, the newest part of the brain that has capacity for language and it has capacity for rational thought. So we try to rationalize and apply logic to things that we feel, but sometimes we can't, right? If you've ever been to a car dealership and let's pretend that you can go any direction, 2 miles, any direction, and buy the same car, same price, same model, same features, same everything. Who do you choose? And it's usually the person that you like the most, the person that you talk to. If you've ever been approached by somebody and instantly you don't like them and you can't explain why, you're like, I don't know. They're a little extra. They're a little doing too much over there. Well, that's because something is triggered inside the limbic brain. So you got to ask yourself, what is it that triggers that? And usually it's part of a belief, a value system, the way you're being talked to. There's something that hits you the way that you like to be talked to, right? So the best in the world at this, the best company in the world at this, I believe, is Apple. Nobody's ever lined up outside my office for 2 weeks before I launched a product or I wrote a new book and released it. Nobody's done it. You probably didn't even line up for 2 minutes before this, right? Before this seminar going on, this webinar. But Apple talks to us differently than any other company in the world, right? They use things like we think differently. We believe in challenging the status quo. That's kind of the way Apple talks to us. And because of that, we also like to think that, well, I think different. I like to challenge the status quo. Matter of fact, when they first started just advertising, most of us had no idea what a computer was, right? We knew a computer existed, but that's the government, right? That big room of stuff. There's not going to be a computer in my house. I remember in the 70s and 80s, I'm like, oh, yeah, I think it's coming, but I couldn't envision having a computer sitting in my house. Well, that's why they didn't start off with buy our computers. They started off with, hey, it's think different. Do you think different? Do you challenge the status quo? Then maybe you should buy an Apple, buy a Macintosh. Well, the reason for that is they connected it to the human brain, right? The way most advertisers talk to us is they tell us what we do. Some people even tell us how we do it. And very few companies will tell you why they do something. But this is what makes the connection. Knowing why you're doing something, knowing why you should buy something, knowing why I should do business with you is the reason that I stay. It's the reason that I commit, right? Where most companies will start out here and maybe get to why. Hey, we sell cars, right? How do we do it? Well, we have a whole different model. We have a car vending machine. They tell us what they do and how they do it, but they don't tell us why they do it. Why do you put them in a car vending machine? Why do you do upfront pricing? They don't tell us why. They tell us how. They don't tell us why. Apple started the other way, and they started with why, and they went out. They said, listen, we think different. We challenge the status quo. If you want to, believe what we believe, if you do the same thing that we do, then you should buy from us. How do we challenge the status quo? How do we think differently? Well, we make beautifully designed products that are easy to use. That's how we do it. That's how we challenge the status quo. And it doesn't matter what we have, an iPod, an iPad, an AirPod. It doesn't matter what it is. You'll buy it because you believe the same thing we believe and you like how we do it. That's how Apple built their cult following, right? They got us to believe the same thing that they believe. Is there a place in your world? Is there a place in your practice? Is there a place in your clients' businesses where they can do the same thing? where they can get people to believe the same thing that they believe about why they're changing the world. How did I start off this whole seminar? I'm on a mission to change and eliminate cash flow as a reason that businesses fail. If you believe the same thing I believe, then we should work together. That's what I'm trying to do as well. I'm telling you why I do the things I do, why I built this course, why I do this seminar. I'm trying to change the world from the cash flow perspective. With that in mind, we should talk about why we like people. And by the way, this is a variation, a derivative of Simon Sinek. If you know Simon Sinek, if you want to know more about this type of thing, go to Simon Sinek and look at the Golden Circle. He has got, it's probably 15, 20 years old now, but it explains a lot of this, probably a lot better than I did. Okay, next. Can I get it? Oh, I got to put on the mouse. There we go. So one of the things that I say in my course is to be successful as an advisor, to be successful as a business owner, you have to be a chameleon. Well, what does that mean? When I say that you have to be a chameleon, what am I really telling you? Well, in the world, you guys have probably seen DISC or what's that called? Myers-Briggs, or any of these assessments about our personalities. Well, there's another version out there called the social styles model. And the social styles model kind of breaks this down into 4 different categories. And this is the way we act in different situations, right? Some of us are drivers. That means, have no problem with confrontation. We make fast decisions. We can, we don't like our time wasted. Driver personalities, you know who they are, because if you're not a driver, you know that you probably classify them as aggressive. And I like to deal with drivers using the rule of 3 B's, right? The 3 B's are be bright, be brief, and be gone, right? Which means know your stuff, don't waste their time, and get out of their way. And then make a decision, right? So that's how you deal with a driver. Remember, the reason why you like your best friend is you like the way we talk to each other. So in this case, I'm asking you to do the same thing, which is talk to them the way they like to be talked to. Match their style, be a chameleon. The next one down is the other side, is expressives. An expressive personality are those people that are kind of excitable, right? They get excited. They love group projects. They love working on things together. They like doing team stuff. They can also tell good stories. They're the people at the networking party that when you go, you kind of gravitate towards because they're talking about something that sounds exciting. You want to hear the story. Well, expressive personalities also have a lack of attention to detail, right? Because they get distracted. They want the next shiny object. They want to do the next thing. Well, if that's the case, how do I keep them on task? If I'm working with them, if I'm trying to sell to them, if I'm their advisor, how do I keep them on task? Well, an expressive personality, you've got to get them just excited about the next step. If you give them too many steps at one time, you're going to lose them because it's too much work, right? It's just they get too distracted. So you got to kind of just give them bite-sized consumable chunks of information and move them one step at a time and get them just as excited. Going around the circle here is an amiable personality. Now, an amiable personality is somebody that's just maybe a little shy, doesn't like big social situations, kind of stays off to themselves. Maybe they're in a group, but they're just listening, not really talking or engaging. They sit at the back of the classroom. They sit on webinars and don't use the chat. When people say, hey, put this in the chat, they don't do that. But it's one of those things where amiable personalities, we're all sometimes all of these, right? But amiable, I can be amiable sometimes when I'm in a situation where I don't know anybody. I'm in a room, I don't know anybody. I'm not trying to take over the room. I'm just trying to figure it out, fill it out. Amiable personalities, it takes a long time to build trust. And if you know anything about trust, to me, it's a mathematical formula. What does that mean? Well, it's the evidence of integrity over time. The more often you do what you say you're going to do and do it, well, then I trust you. The more often, like with my daughters, when they were teenagers, the more often they were in the place they say they were going to be and they were there, the more I trusted them. Like one time, my oldest daughter, she was going to go to Ashley's house. All of a sudden, she ends up 2 towns over. How does that happen? That doesn't build a lot of trust, right? Where you're at the mall 2 towns over instead of at Ashley's house 4 blocks away. So it's one of those things where we kind of lose trust when you're not doing the things that I expect you to do. Now, the last one are analyticals. Now, analytical personality likes everything lined up. It's got to have neat rows, stacked boxes. Everything's got to just fit its own place. Analytical personalities need to see a process. They want to see every step, A, B, C, D. It isn't that if one of the steps seems intuitive, like everybody should just know that if you do A and B, then C happens. So I don't tell you C, I just jump to D. Well, with an analytical personality, if you skip a step, thinking that it's implied that everybody should know that this happens anyway, they're going to get stalled. They're going to get paralyzed, paralysis by analysis. They're going to say things like this. You'll hear it. There's just not enough information here to make a decision. That's how you know you're dealing with a personality that's analytical. Now, what's interesting is that 80% of business owners are drivers and expressives. 80% of accountants and bankers are analyticals and amiables. Now, if I draw this line down the middle, that kind of looks like a brain. I went to business school, not art school, but that kind of looks like a brain. This would be left brain people. This is right brain people. Yeah, that still works. So, but that's kind of what happens. Now, what's interesting, when I say be a chameleon, it means how does a driver talk to one of these people? Well, I always give the example of a business owner that's trying to get a project off the ground, talking to a banker. And it kind of goes like this. I'm just going to role play it. It kind of goes like, hey, Mr. Banker, I got this great idea. I need $50,000 to get it off the ground. I'll tell you, I'm ready to go. I got the prototype built. I got the things going on. I just need $50,000 to get the marketing and everything going. And the banker turns to him and goes, yeah, Mike. Okay. I'm going to need 3 years, tax returns, balance sheets, income statements. No. Don't worry about that type of stuff. You've seen me do this before. I've done it 5 other times with this bank. I get enough money in the bank right now to get this project off the ground. I just want to use the loan to be able to propel it, to really give us some jet fuel. Yeah, Mike. Okay. Yeah, I just need the 3 years, tax returns, balance sheets, income statements. See the problem there? See the problem with the excitement of the driver expressive personality when it connects, talks to an analytical, amiable personality? Yeah, it feels weird, right? There's something off. The energy doesn't match. When I say be a chameleon, what if the banker responded differently? What if the banker responded the same or matched or is a chameleon, such as, hey, Mr. Banker, I got this great idea. I need $50,000 to get it off the ground. Hey, you ready to go? And the banker goes, Mike, I know you can do this. I've seen you do this before. I just need 3 years tax returns, balance sheets, income statements. Right? I'm not saying don't do your job. I'm saying that if I match the energy, all of a sudden the conversation opens up and we're having a better conversation. We're actually connecting, where people start to like each other better because they're like, oh, yeah, he gets it. He's part of my team. We matched energy. I'm still excited about my project. So being a chameleon means matching the style. If I'm a driver talking to an amiable, I can turn them off really fast. If I'm an expressive talking to an analytical, that's way too fluffy for an analytical to be able to keep up with. So you have to be able to match the style and you'll get better results. All right. So what I've done is I've created the elevation sequence, right? So the book I'm working on right now is called, Don't Tell Me What to Do, because what I've realized is that with clients, especially me, I don't like to be told what to do, right? So I've created this elevation sequence about asking questions. And it's a combination of two things, right? One is when I was a state trooper, they taught us a communication style called verbal judo, right? And verbal judo was more about getting people to commit to an action rather than be compliant with what their direction was, right? It's about commitment, not compliance. And that's the same thing with driving action in your clients is I need you to be committed to what our plan is, what our goal is, what our action is. And so I created 8 different techniques to be able to talk to your client a little bit better. And each technique is to connect to a solution, right? And get you to take the action. Now, this elevation sequence, it's elevating your clients, is about not only using verbal judo, but secondly, if you've ever seen the show Hoarders, I've become a big fan. I didn't realize it until like the last year or two. I don't like it for the disorder because it's sad. I like it for the interaction between the psychologist and the person with the disorder. If you watch those conversations, it's a master class in how to talk to other people when there's a problem. Remember, the most fragile time is a problem. So that first scene in Hoarders, when the person with the disorder is standing in their doorway, over their shoulder, you can see the hoard behind them. The psychologist meets them in the doorway, and that's their first interaction. This is where everything can fall apart, is in those first few seconds. And what the psychologist does is really important in those first few seconds. I look at it this way. When I saw these scenes open up, I'm like, oh my gosh, psychologist, business advisor, hoarder, business owner, right? They know there's a problem in their business. They can see it behind them. They're in it every day. The psychologist is there, the advisor is there to help the business owner solve the problem. So instead of being accusatory, instead of being judgmental, instead of telling them what to do, right? The title of the book is Don't Tell Me What to Do. What they do is ask a question. And the question, it changes every episode, but it's along the lines of this. Hey, so tell me what I'm looking at. Or they'll say something like going, how do you think it got like this? When you say questions that way, when you use questions in a manner that it puts people at ease, it lets them be rational, it lets them justify what their actions are. It gives you the foundation to solve the problem. So things that I'm trying to do is, what were you hoping to do? Tell me what I'm looking at. Hey, is there anything you've been worrying about lately? Those are all questions that you can use to open up the dialogue better between you and your client. So this is something that you can use, and I'll have a free ebook coming out in the next month or two. I mean, just stay connected to me, and you'll be able to get a copy of the ebook about how to do the elevation sequence with your clients. And again, this is just more about driving behavior to get results. So right now, I do have a free ebook for you. It is on my website, cashflowmike.com. How to analyze any business in 7 minutes or less, also known as the 7 minute conversation. I do have a free Facebook group with a lot of different resources in it. It's called Finding Hidden Cash in Your Business, or the Clear Path to Cash. Got a podcast, Business Beer and BS. If you like hearing stories, come listen to Mike and Blaine. It's on any podcast directory. And if you just want to talk to me, Mike at cashflowmike.com. Jessica, I super appreciate everything you do for me and give me the opportunity to talk to your clients, and appreciate you.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Mike. I love that we had a little science section with the brain there. I love, I always love those. Okay. Anyway, thanks so much, Mike, and everybody for taking time out of your day to hang out with us. And right before we close out this webinar, remember that we have many webinars for you every month, and you can check those out over on our site. I put those links in the chat, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel and newsletter so you don't miss out on news and updates that impact today's accounting professional. Well, again, thanks for today, everybody, and we will see you in the next Cash Flow Mastery Talks. Have a good
Right.
day.
Thanks,
Bye.
man. Bye.